The snow lay thick over the mountain town of Frostbloom, turning the narrow streets into a white, glittering labyrinth. Smoke curled from chimneys, and the few townsfolk brave enough to walk outside huddled in heavy coats and scarves, their boots crunching in the frozen powder. At the edge of town, where the forest began its climb up the icy slopes, rare flowers pushed stubbornly through the snow, their colors vivid against the endless white. Frostbloom was one of the only places in the world where the magical snowblossom bloomed, a flower said to hold powers strong enough to charm the heart or heal the gravest wound. Sheriff Rowan Vale wrapped his woolen scarf tighter around his neck and adjusted the brim of his hat. He had come to Frostbloom years ago, drawn by the town's quiet charm and the mountain's harsh beauty. At first, he thought the job would be routine, keeping order, breaking up the occasional tavern fight, tracking the occasional runaway horse. But the flowers changed everything. People came from far and wide, seeking the snowblossoms for reasons Rowan didn't always like to think about. That made his job more than just enforcing the law, it made him a guardian. He walked along the path leading to the flower fields, boots sinking slightly into the fresh snow. The wind carried the faint, sweet scent of the blooms, a fragrance delicate and otherworldly. Rowan knelt and touched the petals of a pale blue snowblossom, feeling a warmth he couldn't explain. Just as he was about to stand, a shadow flitted across the clearing. He froze, his hand instinctively resting on the grip of his revolver. "Who's there?" he called. His voice cut sharply through the winter hush. From behind a cluster of frost-covered pines, a figure stepped forward, hands raised. It was a messenger, a young boy from town. "Sheriff. There's trouble near the old mill," he gasped, snowflakes clinging to his hair and coat. I think someone's trying to take the flowers." Rowan's eyes narrowed. The town's rumors had grown over the past few weeks. A gang of thieves had been spotted in the surrounding forests. They were after the snowblossoms, the boy said, intending to harvest them for a perfume that could command anyone who smelled it. Rowan had dismissed it at first as exaggeration, the sort of tall tale that traveled faster than the wind through Frostbloom. But now, standing in the very field they sought to plunder, he felt a familiar knot of worry tighten in his chest. Without another word, he motioned for the boy to stay back and sprinted toward the old mill. The path was treacherous, slick with ice, but Rowan knew these mountains better than most. As he approached, he caught sight of movement near the trees lining the clearing. Shadows slipped between trunks, careful, deliberate. Rowan slowed, crouching low behind a snow-laden boulder. He counted 6 figures, all dressed in dark coats, faces half hidden by scarves and hats. One of them carried a basket, already filling it with blooms. The sight made Rowan's stomach turn. The snowblossoms were delicate, they wouldn't survive long outside their natural habitat, and these thieves had no respect for that. "Easy," he muttered under his breath. "Let's see what they're made of." He stepped forward, boots crunching in the snow. "Hey! You there! Stop!" The gang froze, then turned. The tallest among them, a man with a scar running from his temple to his jaw, sneered. "Looks like the town's sheriff finally woke up," he said, voice rough like gravel. "Step aside, old man, and you won't get hurt." Rowan squared his shoulders. "These flowers aren't for you. Leave them, or you'll answer to me." A laugh, sharp and cruel, echoed across the clearing. "Answer to you?" the scar-faced man said. "We've been planning this for months. You think one snowy little town can stop us?" Rowan didn't flinch. His hand rested lightly on his revolver, ready. He noticed a smaller figure at the back of the group, hunched over the basket. The person moved carefully, almost reverently, as if they understood the flower's value. Rowan's heart sank. Someone in the gang might know the flower's true magic. "You don't know what you're messing with," Rowan said, stepping closer. "These aren't ordinary blooms. They're part of this land. Harm them, and you'll unleash more than just my wrath." The man laughed again and raised a gun, but Rowan's reflexes were faster. With a sharp motion, he drew his revolver, aiming carefully. "One step closer," he warned, "and I swear you'll regret it." For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Snow fell lazily around them, settling on the flowers, on the thieves' shoulders, on Rowan's hat. Then, the gang bolted. Some ran into the forest, while others dropped the baskets, scattering flowers across the snow. Rowan fired a warning shot into the air, and the sound cracked like thunder in the mountains. When the dust settled, Rowan knelt again, gathering the scattered snowblossoms. They trembled in his hands, petals shivering in the cold. His heart pounded, not just from the chase, but from the realization that this was only the beginning. The thieves had tested him, and now they knew the town had a guardian willing to fight for the flowers. The wind whispered through the pines, carrying the scent of the blooms and the promise of more challenges to come. Rowan stood, brushing snow from his coat. Frostbloom was quiet once more, but the mountains held secrets, and Rowan knew the gang would be back. As the sun dipped behind the peaks, casting long shadows over the flower fields, Rowan made a silent vow. No one would steal the snowblossoms. Not tonight, not ever. If you want, I can write part 2 next, where the thieves regroup and Rowan discovers the true magical power of the flowers. That part can be more thrilling, with traps and strategy. The morning after the attempted theft, Frostbloom woke under a bright, brittle sun that reflected sharply off the snow. Sheriff Rowan Vale patrolled the town slowly, his eyes scanning every alley, every roofline. The townsfolk whispered about the previous night, their breaths puffing in the cold air like small clouds, but none dared to question Rowan's command. He had saved the snowblossoms once, but the gang would return, and next time, they would be more cunning. He reached the edge of the flower fields, where the surviving snowblossoms glimmered faintly, petals dusted with frost. Rowan knelt, inspecting them carefully. Some had wilted in the cold, bruised by the thieves' rough hands, but most had survived. He pressed a finger lightly to one bloom and felt a shiver run through him, a gentle warmth that spread through his chest. These flowers weren't just beautiful, they were alive in a way that demanded respect. Footsteps crunched behind him. Rowan turned sharply, hand on his revolver, but it was only Mara, the town's herbalist. She was small, wiry, and had spent decades studying the snowblossoms. "Rowan," she said quietly, eyes scanning the trees, "they're not going to give up. That gang, they know the flowers are magical. They'll be back tonight, maybe even with reinforcements." Rowan nodded grimly. "I thought so. They tested me last night. They want the flowers for some kind of perfume." "Mara, do you know what it does?" Mara shook her head. "Legends say it can bend the will of anyone who smells it. Some claim it can even make people reveal their deepest secrets. But the flowers, they don't thrive outside these mountains. Remove too many, and their magic fades, maybe permanently." A sudden rustling from the tree-line snapped both of their heads toward the forest. Rowan's hand went instinctively to his revolver. A figure emerged, hood drawn low, moving carefully over the snow. He wasn't threatening, not yet, but he carried a small pouch that jingled faintly. "Stop right there!" Rowan shouted. The figure froze, hands visible, and slowly turned. It was a young woman, her face pale and streaked with dirt. Her eyes were wide, almost desperate. I didn't take much, she stammered. I only wanted one flower. Please. I didn't know, Rowan narrowed his eyes. Who sent you? The girl hesitated, biting her lip. I work for them, the gang. But I didn't want to hurt anyone. I wanted to see the flowers. They're beautiful. Mara stepped closer. They're dangerous in the wrong hands, she warned softly. Even one flower can be misused. Rowan studied the girl for a long moment. There was fear in her eyes, yes, but also honesty. He lowered his gun slightly. All right, he said. You'll stay with me. If they come back, you'll help me stop them, understand? The girl nodded frantically. I will. I'll do anything. The hours crawled by. Rowan and Mara fortified the field as best they could. They set traps, tripwires hidden beneath the snow, small pits covered with branches, and the scent of decoy flowers leading away from the main patch. Rowan moved like a shadow among the blooms, feeling the pulse of the mountains, aware that the gang could strike at any moment. As night fell, the forest around Frostbloom grew darker, colder, and unnervingly quiet. Rowan and the girl, whose name he learned was Liora, huddled near the largest cluster of snowblossoms. Mara had left to check the town, promising to return with reinforcements if needed. Then came the sound of snow crunching in a rhythm too deliberate to be wildlife. Rowan crouched low, gun ready. The gang had returned, this time with more people and lanterns casting flickering light across the white ground. Split up, the scar-faced leader barked. Don't let them get the flowers. Rowan's heart pounded. He motioned to Liora to stay hidden, and the girl nodded, trembling. As the gang spread, Rowan triggered the first trap, a wire that toppled one of the thieves into a shallow pit. Snow flew as another ran into a tangle of branches. Rowan fired warning shots, and chaos erupted among the intruders. Amid the struggle, Liora moved carefully, guiding the snowblossoms to a safer part of the field, whispering to them as if they could hear. Rowan noticed something extraordinary. The flowers seemed to glow faintly where Liora touched them, petals pulsing with light. A warmth spread through the snow, almost protective, almost alive. Rowan realized then that the snowblossoms' magic was tied not just to the mountains, but to those who cared for them. This knowledge would be their greatest weapon. The gang, greedy and ruthless, could never understand it. The fight was far from over. But for now, Rowan had bought Frostbloom and its flowers a reprieve. As he looked down at the glowing blooms, he whispered a silent vow: he would not let these thieves succeed, no matter what it took. The wind howled through the mountains, carrying with it a scent that was faintly sweet, faintly dangerous, a reminder that the snowblossoms were alive, watching, and ready to protect their own. The night hung heavy over Frostbloom, the stars muted behind clouds thick with snow. Sheriff Rowan Vale moved silently through the flower fields, alert for the slightest movement. The failed theft from the previous night had enraged the gang, and he knew they wouldn't stop until every last snowblossom was in their hands. Liora followed closely, her breath visible in the freezing air. They'll come back, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. They'll bring more people this time. They won't care about traps. Rowan nodded. We'll be ready. He had spent the day reinforcing their defenses. Hidden snares and pitfalls dotted the fields, decoy flowers lured intruders away from the main patch, and Mara had brought barrels of boiling water, carefully frozen until needed, forming icy barricades that could be released at the right moment. But Rowan knew brute force wouldn't be enough. The gang was clever, ruthless, and desperate. They needed a plan that would use the Snowblossoms' magic, not just his guns or traps. Rowan crouched by the largest cluster of flowers, brushing the snow from the petals. "Liora," he said softly, "they respond to care. They're alive in ways that aren't obvious. Touch them gently, focus on protecting them. They can do more than just look pretty in the snow, they can defend themselves if we guide them." Liora's hands hovered over the blooms. She hesitated, then pressed her palms to the petals. A soft glow spread outward, faint at first, then brighter, casting a warm light against the cold night. The flower's magic hummed, a quiet pulse through the snow. Rowan felt it too, a comforting, protective presence that filled him with calm and focus. Hours passed, the quiet stretching like a frozen rope over the mountains. And then came the sound, boots crunching sharply against snow, deliberate, organized. Rowan's heart pounded. The gang had arrived, a dozen strong this time, carrying lanterns and sacks. The scar-faced leader barked orders. "Check the field. Don't leave a bloom standing." Rowan waited. He let them approach, unseen in the shadows. Then, with a sharp whistle, he activated the first part of his trap. Small lanterns tethered to strings swung downward, spilling sparks over hidden barrels of snow-covered oil. The gang cursed as they jumped back, lanterns clattering to the ground. Rowan fired 3 warning shots, and the intruders scattered slightly, confused. But it wasn't enough to stop them. They advanced, greedy and reckless. That's when Rowan and Liora used the Snowblossoms' magic. Liora stepped forward, palms outstretched, chanting softly under her breath, a melody Rowan hadn't heard before, carried from the mountains themselves. The Snowblossoms responded instantly. Their petals glowed brightly, a light that shimmered and bent in the snow, creating illusions. The gang froze, seeing duplicates of Rowan and Liora moving through the field, shadows and figures everywhere. "What trickery is this?" the scar-faced man shouted, swinging his gun wildly. But the illusions were too convincing. He fired at a shadow, missing entirely. His men stumbled over decoy flowers, trapped in snares, and scattered into the snow. Rowan advanced carefully, guiding Liora. "Keep them away from the main patch. Focus." The magic pulsed stronger where Liora's hands brushed the petals. Snow seemed to rise around them, forming barriers of shimmering frost that the gang couldn't penetrate. They swung their weapons blindly, panicked, but each movement triggered another trap, hidden pits, ice-covered barrels that tumbled down small slopes, and the deceptive reflections of the glowing flowers. One by one, the thieves fled, some surrendering, others tumbling into the traps. The scar-faced leader was the last, standing at the edge of the field, eyes wide with fury and disbelief. Rowan stepped forward, revolver raised but calm. "It's over. Leave now, or," the leader hesitated, then slowly backed away, dragging the few who remained with him. The Snowblossoms glowed faintly in the aftermath, their magic settling, as if sighing with relief. Rowan exhaled, dropping to his knees among the petals. "They won't be back," he murmured. Liora knelt beside him, brushing a fallen bloom carefully back into place. Mara arrived moments later, snowflakes clinging to her coat. "I heard the commotion," she said, scanning the field. Her eyes widened at the sight of the glowing flowers. "So it's true, the magic is real." Rowan nodded. "It's more than magic, it's a protection. They respond to care, to respect. We don't just guard them, we guide them." The wind carried the faint scent of the Snowblossoms through the field. For the first time since the thieves arrived, Frostbloom felt truly safe. But Rowan knew the mountains held more secrets, and the world beyond might not understand the value of these blooms. Still, tonight, the town had survived, the flowers had survived, and Rowan had proven that courage, care, and cleverness could stand against greed. As he gazed at the glowing petals under the starless sky, he made a silent promise: the snowblossoms of Frostbloom would remain untouched, and their magic would endure, protected by the sheriff who understood their true power. Snow fell in thick, swirling sheets over Frostbloom, covering the town in a soft, white blanket that muffled every sound. Yet beneath the quiet, an electric tension ran through the mountain air. Sheriff Rowan Vale stood at the edge of the flower fields, scanning the tree line where shadows stretched long and dark. Weeks had passed since the last attack, but his instincts told him the gang was preparing for one final, desperate strike. They would not be deterred by traps, illusions, or warnings. They were greedy, ruthless, and driven by obsession. Beside him, Liora knelt among the snowblossoms, her hands hovering over the petals. "Do you really think they'll come back?" she asked, her voice uncertain, almost lost in the whispering wind. The snowflakes melted on her lashes, framing her wide, anxious eyes. Rowan tightened his scarf against the cold and studied the horizon. "They will," he said grimly. "They've already tried twice. Tonight, they'll come with more people, more firepower, and they won't care about anything but taking the flowers. We have to be ready for everything." Mara appeared then, carrying barrels of snow and ice to reinforce their makeshift defenses. Her breath steamed in the freezing air as she looked over the field. "I've never seen anything like what you did last time," she said, nodding toward Liora. "The flowers, they obeyed you. It's incredible." "They respond to care," Rowan said. "Not fear, not force. If we show them respect, they'll protect themselves, and us. That's what we're counting on tonight." The sun had long vanished behind jagged peaks, and the moon barely illuminated the swirling snow. Suddenly, a faint sound of footsteps cut through the night. Crisp, deliberate crunching on the snow. Rowan's eyes narrowed. The gang had arrived. Lanterns bobbed among the trees, casting flickering, ominous light on the white ground. This time, there were more of them, nearly a dozen, including the scar-faced leader, their eyes glinting with greed. "Remember," Rowan whispered to Liora, "do not be afraid. Let the flowers guide you. Focus on protecting them." The scar-faced leader stepped forward, his voice sharp and cruel. "This time, we leave with the flowers, or we die trying." He waved a gun, and the rest of the gang spread out like a shadow crawling across the snow. Rowan signaled to Mara and Liora. The moment had come. Liora stepped forward, her palms outstretched toward the largest cluster of snowblossoms. She began chanting softly, a melody that seemed older than the mountains themselves. The petals pulsed, glowing softly at first, then brightly, casting a shimmering light that reflected off the snow in blinding patterns. The gang froze, blinking, confused. Then Rowan activated the traps. Pits covered with snow swallowed unsuspecting intruders. Barrels of ice tumbled down gentle slopes, blocking paths and forcing the thieves into narrow channels. Decoy flowers glowed faintly, drawing the greedy men away from the true cluster. Snow swirled around them like a living barrier, slowing their advance. The leader roared in frustration and lunged for the main patch, but the snowblossoms responded. Under Leora's careful guidance, the petals shimmered, rising into the air. A wave of warmth pulsed outward, lifting snow in a spinning spiral that formed a protective barrier around the cluster. The leader pressed forward, but the force held him, not harming him, yet refusing to let him pass. He screamed in rage, firing his weapon blindly, but every shot was deflected by the glowing petals and the illusions they created. Rowan advanced alongside Liora, revolver drawn, his eyes sharp. "You can't take them. You can't control what you do not respect." His voice rang across the field, steady and commanding. The gang stumbled through illusions and traps, some falling into pits, others tripping over decoy flowers that glowed like their true counterparts. The snowblossoms pulsed with energy, creating multiple images of Rowan and Liora moving through the field. The thieves swung weapons blindly, striking nothing, while the real guardians guided each magical illusion to confuse and contain them. One of the gang members, younger and less hardened, froze, tears mingling with the snow on his cheeks. This isn't right," he whispered, dropping his weapon. Another followed. Slowly, panic spread through the group. Greed could not contend with a force it did not understand, magic guided by care, patience, and respect. Finally, the scar-faced leader realized the futility of brute force. He tried one last desperate charge toward the main cluster, but the snowblossoms glowed brighter, petals swirling in a protective vortex. Liora raised her hands fully, chanting louder, and the wind itself seemed to rise with her, forming a blinding barrier of shimmering frost. The leader slammed into it and stumbled backward, shaking with fury and disbelief. Rowan stepped forward, calm but resolute, and secured him with handcuffs. The remaining thieves, exhausted, disoriented, and terrified, surrendered one by one. The snowblossom's magic settled, petals glowing softly in relief. The storm of illusions and swirling snow ceased, leaving only the quiet, serene glow of the flowers against the pristine snow. By dawn, Frostbloom was silent again. The townsfolk emerged cautiously, drawn by the faint glow in the distance. They gasped at the sight, the snowblossoms, untouched, luminous, and alive, and the sheriff standing with Liora and Mara, triumphant yet weary. "They protected themselves," one elder whispered. "And the sheriff and the girl, they guided them. Magic like this, it's alive." Rowan brushed snow from his coat, kneeling beside the largest bloom. "It's more than magic," he said softly. "It's care, patience, respect. That's what keeps the snowblossoms alive, and what protects Frostbloom." Liora touched a bloom gently, smiling as it glowed under her hand. "I understand now," she said. "We aren't just guarding them. We're working with them." Mara nodded. "And that's something no thief could ever grasp. They can steal greed, but they can't steal respect, or life." The sun began to rise over the mountains, turning the snow gold and pink. The snowblossoms shimmered, magical fragrance drifting across Frostbloom, as if thanking those who had fought for them. Rowan looked over the town, the mountains, and the glowing field. The gang had been captured or driven away. The town was safe. The flowers were safe. And for now, the world beyond these mountains could not touch the rare magic of Frostbloom. Somewhere in the wind, a soft rustling moved through the petals, like a gentle, whispered thank you. Rowan smiled faintly. Frostbloom had survived. Its snow, its flowers, and its guardians remained unbroken, a quiet victory carved in ice, petals, and courage. And Rowan knew, deep in his heart, that as long as he, Liora, and Mara stood watch, the snowblossoms would endure, their magic alive in the snow, the mountains, and the hearts of those who protected them.